We have now realized in our adulation of efficiency that some of us are not needed. The machines have taken over, taken the jobs, but making the things we really didn't need in the first place. We evolved doing what needed doing to live. I don't know, but I suspect the old, for instance, were needed deeply. I suspect that love was a massive and various force holding society together. We are confused today because the work we do is so petty, the rewarded work. 35 years ago, I worked with a younger man, boyfriend of my sister, helping him with landscaping. Hard work. My sister was warned off him by her mother. He wasn't on the way to being rich. 2 years later, he came into a video store I worked at. Beautiful Italian kid in a suit and mohair coat. I said, "You look good, prosperous. What are you up to?" He was working for a bank. "How is that?" His eyes filled with tears. "I hate it, Decron. You know what I do? I bill other departments within the bank. That is what I do all day." And this earned him mohair. He wanted to be a gym teacher, a high school gym teacher. He had run the fastest 100 meters in the state under 16 years old. Today, 30 years later, he's a gym teacher. My sister moved on to a lawyer and ended in tears. Maybe there was a faster runner in the hunting party, a bigger, stronger man, and Hollywood has imagined that this man was a natural king who takes the lion's share of the game, but even the lion eats what they need and no more. If we had the leader obsessions we do today, I think we'd not have lasted. We'd be extinct. So then we had a tradition, a necessary tradition of collectivism. And I'd also conclude that this was not a throttle society where the more talented, bigger dudes chafed at the restrictions of the lowest common denominator, that an individual's aspirations would not be relative. How well am I doing compared to Hrothgar over there? We, Hollywood, will think that the big fast guy got his pick of the women. This may be true, but it may not be. In other words, if the one in the gang is the script writer, we will have stories about his aspirations and his frustrations, and script writers are rarely the big hunter. This much is clear. The myths of long ago, before, randomly, the agricultural revolution, have heroes. Gilgamesh is very old, still an archetype right after today, arrogant and oppressive as a ruler, so the gods created a wild man, Enkidu, to encounter him and curb his excesses. And they became friends. A story we do not tell, homosexual panic. We tell the one-man story because it never works. I asked Google recently, did the gods think they were superior, Greeks think they were superior to their gods? AI retorted, no. I could hear this, the irritation, the snap. But of course the Greeks did. Their pantheon is made up of excesses, unbalanced human compulsions that the philosophers suggested we moderate to become the good. The gods were all-powerful, like any Freudian psychosis, but the hope of the human was to overcome these destructive excesses. We don't do that anymore. We are commanded to do that. We don't do it ourselves. We are therefore, in my opinion, less in the present, as if the community took a long step back. The gods and heroes of then reflect what we were imagining before our imaginations were superseded by doctrine. We can interpret them in our own lights, and we do, but there is a huge absence, therefore. When we deal with Troy, for instance, it becomes Disney. Disney is our new myth maker. It is the new patriarch. Agamemnon becomes Jafar. Achilles, Brad Pitt. And Brad Pitt was an interesting Achilles. He does manifest something of the original, I think. But, you know, when I listen often, I listen a lot, I listen to discussions, especially amongst the people who think they should be discussing things. The people with diplomas and degrees in discussing things. I am struck by, it's not unintelligent, it's just irrelevant. I encountered something today which was interesting. That a woman wrote about how the Israelis, the Jewish people, are now they ain't gonna take it anymore. They're sick and tired of being, kicked out and moved on and murdered and pogromed and all that sort of excluded and all that kind of stuff. And I'm listening to her, and I'm thinking, yeah, absolutely, well done. Now, can you do it? Can you do this on your own without relying on all the funding and the armaments you get from the people who actually persecuted you? What's interesting, though, is what she's saying is a truth that cuts right through to the core of something. One might then you can start discussing it. It's none of this mumbo jumbo about ancestral homelands or how long the Palestinians have been a people, which is irrelevant. It's just piffle. It's not part of what she is. She is articulating exactly what's going on. I saw a thing yesterday. This young chap, this young 14 maybe younger, in Gaza, raging about. He started off raging about the other Arab states, and then he raged about this one, he raged about that one, he raged about America, he raged about Israel. Less so about Israel than any of the others, which was interesting, but his rage was remarkable, and his articulate, the flow that came from him because of this, and his sense of dignity and pride in being a person from Gaza. He separated himself from all the rest, and he says, I am a man from Gaza, we Gazans. He didn't even extend it to Palestinians, it was we Gazans, and he was quite, and as I say this, I'd seen an older, maybe 22, maybe, Jewish man, young man, kid, doing the same thing. Doesn't matter what he was raging about. He was raging, what he was raging about was, he said that Zionism is not Judaism. And that's what he was angry about. And he was saying that, Zionism was causing the thing. But it really doesn't matter. It was not this smug, measured, what they think is effective adult version of barbarity. It was, these people were just blowing, and one sees them and one goes, these are the people who should come to the table. It's completely wrong, this idea that we need to sit down peacefully, because what we do is we sit down supposedly peacefully and we create distorted, contorted languages which avoid the truth. And these young men, I've seen many young women do it, where it's just this human passion coming out, and you, whatever side they're on, you go, well, you're dealing with the truth. That's a good starting point. The fact that we're dealing with so many lies that we're so good at, we're so in love with the artificial, which is why we have it. It's amazing, like, on Facebook, they'll do a thing about famous boxer or a famous, moment in history or something like that. And you realize, and it'd be 7, 8 paragraphs, and you realize about 3 paragraphs in, this is absolute twaddle. This is AI. This is logic for logic's sake. It has no nuance, no intuition, and no passion. And it's not just useless. It's toxic, because people come to think it's a thing, and it's not even a thing. It's not. It's clearly not written by a human being of any capacity.